Listen, hey y'all, this is a special one. Listen, we talking about what's on your ballot. What is on your ballot? I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. In studio, I have with me Kimberly Thomas, JD, and
Hi.
from Third Line NOLA, the Cess 45. It's only one of them, y'all. Anything with a 45 at the end, they talking about Cess. Listen, let's talk about it. So we're talking all things ballot. We're going to break down the ballot. We're going to read the ballot as it will read to the people in the booth, but we're also going to tell them what a no vote means, what a yes vote means, and we're going to break down the ballot from top to bottom. And we want to make certain that people know early voting is going on right now. It started today, October 18th. It's going to run into October 29th, excluding those Sundays. So you have 11 full days of early voting before the November 5th election day. We are 18 days away from election day. What you think about that, Seth?
I think this is a great time to be alive, as they say. It's no excuses. You got 11 days to go early vote,
Yeah.
and then also, November 5th. So, no excuses.
No
Let's get it.
excuses. What you think, Kimberly Thomas?
I think I highly suggest everybody go and early vote. Who knows what's going to happen on election day? And if you're going to the courthouses, be ready. Try to get your ballot beforehand. If you have questions on this, reach out to one of us so that way, if you need a further explanation, I will sit and go ahead and explain it to you.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason why anybody should go into the voting booth ill-informed,
Correct.
misinformed, or uninformed.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, if you're not ready today to go and vote, then wait until you inform yourself. Take 2 or 3 days and get to know what's on your ballot, and then take that next day and go vote. But don't just rush to the polls because the polls are open and then you're only voting for the president and you're leaving a down ballot empty. A lot of folks do that. So our job right now is to break down this ballot. So let's talk about it. The presidential race, we know says everybody go and vote for the president.
Yes.
But people forget that we also have other races on the ballot. In New Orleans, we are going to vote for a congressman. We have the United States Representative, Second Congressional District, up for re-election. That seat is being held right now by the incumbent Congressman Troy Carter. We also have a constitutional amendment on the ballot, and we have a couple homeroom
Charters. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so even in Jefferson Parish, they also have that they're going to vote for a United States representative, whether it be the second congressional or first congressional district. That seat is currently held by Congressman Steve Scalise.
Yeah.
So you have an opportunity to either keep him in or vote him out. So people need to know that there are other things besides the president on the ballot. Also in New Orleans, we have a District 2 and District 4 school board races, which are extremely important. And let me be very clear, because there was a person that reached out today and she said, Dr. Wyatt, I didn't see any school board races on my ballot. If you don't live in District 2 or District 4, you will not see a school board race on your ballot. The only two seats that are up for re-election are District 2 and District 4. So you have to reside in one of those other districts for the school board race not to be on your ballot. So let's talk about it, Kimmy. Who are the people running to be the commander-in-chief of these United States?
And I just want to do a side note. Do not skip a vote because you do not want to vote for a president. There are very important things on this ballot, and I can't overemphasize that because I'm hearing more people say that they want to skip on the opportunity to cast their vote for things that are happening in Louisiana because they do not want to be a part of the presidential election.
So let me go to Seth. What do you say to people who are so disengaged with the democratic process that they are attempting to protest by not voting at all?
Well, that's not an option, to not vote. So you have to use your voice, and pick if it's the lesser of two evils, you gotta, pick the lesser of two evils, but you have to use your voice and vote. And I think it's just our, civic duty, it's our obligation to the people that fought, died, the ancestors who didn't have an opportunity to vote, who weren't able to vote, weren't allowed to vote, who had those dogs,
water
greased
hoses,
on them, and the water hoses, and all of the things that we've been through as a people, to get to the point to where you're able to have a choice whether you'll go or not. You know what I'm saying? But it's not an option. You got to use your voice if you want to vote.
And see, my opinion is, even if you choose to not vote, you're still voting, because a non-vote is a vote.
Correct.
Because to not vote for somebody is to say that you're okay with the outcome, however it goes. And then if you don't get the representative that you want, then do you actually have the latitude to complain?
Well,
do you have the space to complain? If you chose to sit out and we decided to go and vote, and we voted our person in, and you don't like our person, then you want to sit home and Monday morning quarterback the election and say, well, X, Y, and Z, but you had the same opportunities we had. I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous rhetoric to put it in people's mind that I just don't like either candidate, so I won't vote, which is why we breaking it down, because Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are not the only people vying for your vote on election day. So let's talk about who is running to be the commander-in-chief of the United States of America.
All right. So, yes, this is the largest hiring process that you will ever be a part of, is the election. So who do you want to work for you? I'm going to list not only who is running for the presidential seat, but also the vice presidential seat. So we have Kamala D. Harris of California with Tim Walz of Minnesota. That's on your Democratic ticket. We have Jill Stein of Massachusetts, Ajamu Baraka of Illinois, which is a part of the Green Party. We have Chase Oliver of Georgia, Mike Termott of Virginia, which is the Libertarian Party, and I apologize if I pronounced it wrong. We have Donald J. Trump of Florida, J.D. Vance of Ohio on the Republican ticket. We have Peter Sansky of Connecticut, Lauren Anak of Massachusetts, and that is the American Solidarity Party. We have Randall Terry of Tennessee, Stephen Broden of Texas, and that's the Constitution Party. We have Maddie Preston of Louisiana, Chanel Connor of Texas, and that's the Godliness, Truth, Justice Party. We have Cornel West of California, Melina Abdullah of California, Justice for All Party. We have Claudia de la Cruz of New York, Karina Garcia of New York, and the Socialism and Liberation Party. I apologize. We have Rochelle Fruit of Florida, Dennis Richer of Texas, and that's the Socialist Workers Party. And finally, we have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. of New York and Nicole Shanahan of California is We the People Party. However, Robert Kennedy has conceded and thrown in his vote for Donald J. Trump on that one.
But the implications of him still being on the ballot is that people can still cast votes in his name. So even though he's decided to step away from the presidential race, and through his support behind the Republican nominee, his name still appears on the ballot. And so people can still cast protest votes if they don't like Kamala Harris or they don't want to vote for Donald Trump. They can actually vote for him in protest, which is thrown away votes, actually, because he's already conceded. He's already said, I don't want to represent you as your commander-in-chief, and I'm giving my support to Donald J. Trump. What do you think about that, Sis? Somebody's name still appearing on the ballot, because you do know if you take too long to concede, once the ballots have already been drawn up, your name still appears. So what are the implications of that?
Well, what stands out to me first before I even get to that is that there's 11 different parties to choose from if you were into like separation, so and there's a lot of women either running for president or as vice president candidates. So I think that's something that folks should take awareness to. But if they're gonna throw their vote away,
Because I mean, if you're gonna vote, you might as well vote for a viable candidate, right? Yeah, because he's not viable anymore.
Yes.
So it makes no sense to still have him appear there and he's not viable, and then you're going to vote for him. So you're basically throwing your vote away when there's, like you said, 11 different parties in the race. You should at least pick somebody that's viable where your vote can actually count. But those are the people who are vying for, I know a lot of people think, it's only between the Democratic nominee and the Republican nominee. But the truth of the matter is all of these other people will draw votes.
Yes.
We talked about Jill Stein on the Good Morning Show on WBOK. We talked about how the sentiment is that she cost Hillary Clinton the presidency because she appeared on the ballot. And I don't know if she's making a thing out of like being like a renegade person in a race. I don't know if she's making a thing out of knowing she can't win, but she's going to draw as many votes away from people as she possibly can. I don't know what the motivation is here. Like, I don't even know if, she would choose one candidate over the other. I think she's there to be, for a lack of a better word, a ram in a bush, because it's like, why are you there? She's not viable, in my opinion, but she's going to draw votes. And for a race this tight, every vote matters.
I think, and this may be, give me some backlash. We're fortunate that we have so many choices on our ballot as far as different parties.
Yeah.
But sometimes too many choices split a vote, right? So if it had just 3, we would be able to better say, okay, it is the Democrat, the Republican, or the Independent, and we can get behind it. But once you have the independent parties splitting amongst themselves,
the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, We the People Party.
Too many choices, too many options start looking a lot like a menu on Cheesecake Factory. And it's too much, and you can't narrow it down. Sorry, Cheesecake Factory. I'm sorry.
It's a lot on their menu. That's just a fact.
It's a lot of things on their menu, and this is what we have on our ballot. It's too many. And so I do think that Jill Stein, she, if you wanted to get behind her, I always felt like these other parties should have thrown in for one candidate, and they could have been
separate
more
and apart from the Democratic and the Republican nominee. But listen, there you have it. Those are all of your candidates who are vying to be the commander-in-chief of the United States. But we're going to now go to the next option on your ballot, which is the United States Representative in Congressional Districts 1 and Congressional Districts 2. Says, do you see the those vying for the 2nd Congressional District seat?
You see the first.
Tell us who they are in the 1st Congressional District. Who's running to get your vote on the 1st Congressional District?
So it's Randall Arrington, a Republican, and then there's J. Frankie Hires, no party, and there's Mel Manuel, a Democrat, and then Steve Scalise, a current
the incumbent
Republican, and then Royce Shells, a Republican, and Marguerite Swanson.
What sticks out to me very quickly is that every person vying for the United States Representative 1st Congressional District seat, every one of them is white. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white men and looks like 1 white woman. Now, Mel doesn't have ethnicity or anything behind his name, so we're gonna not say that he's white, because I don't know. He didn't say he's a Democrat, but I don't know what his ethnicity is. But they're all of the ones we can see, they're all white. And they're all male, with the exception of Marguerite Swanson. She's a Republican, white female, and those are all of the people vying to be your U.S. representative in the 1st Congressional District. Steve Scalise is the current seat holder. He is being challenged by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people.
Yes.
And I know that a lot of people talk about how they feel about their congressman. The time to tell us how you feel is in the voting booth. If you don't like the job that he's doing, if you're uncomfortable with the way the state is going under his leadership, then it's time to make a change. But part of making that change is to understand who these other people are. And I'm not going to lie to you, Sess, I've never heard of any of them.
No.
And
see, what I have to challenge people, before you go into that booth, you need to know who Randall Arrington is, or Arrington is. You need to go research him. You need to know who Jay Frankie Hires is. You need to make sure that at least you know the difference between those two. You need to actually know what Steve Scalise's record was.
Yes.
To see if you
what did he vote on? What did he support?
That's the biggest thing.
Where did he stand on January 6th?
Yeah.
During the
And that's
insurrection
huge.
of our country. Like, we need to know these things. I would even ask that of my congressman.
Yes.
You know, I would want to know that. I want to know them people who own the stores in my city. Were you at the Capitol on January 6th?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give my money to people who don't respect my humanity or who don't feel like
Yes.
our lives matter. I think it's important to understand who these people are, what their
Yes.
platforms are, what they bring to the seat. Because as we were talking about before we went on air, the implications of not voting is dealing with a government that you probably are super uncomfortable with, or
Yes.
you're struggling underneath, but nobody's going out to vote. Our governor's race had the lowest turnout that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In a gubernatorial race. It was just so dismal. And we don't want that. We can't afford to have that. So in the U.S. Representative 1st Congressional District, there are 6 people, including the incumbent, vying for your vote. So let's talk about
I want to make one note.
Go ahead.
Just in case people have not paid attention to what's going on in our country right now. They are saying, according to South Korea, that North Korea is supposed to be jumping into the war with Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. All right. We have the things that are going on in Israel. We have things that are going everywhere else. And we just got hit, and we're still within our hurricane season. All right. You've seen what has happened where FEMA is saying they're running out of money. So that's a budget thing. These people matter.
Yeah.
They're going to realign, readjust the budget. And with all these different efforts that are pulling at our dollars, we need to see who these people are and where they stand on these things.
Yeah. That's about understanding who you're voting for. Because we're telling you who and what is on the ballot, but we're not telling you about these people's track records,
Yep.
what their policy initiatives are,
No.
the things they've supported, the things that they've blocked. Because we do know that it takes more than a president. The president has to have the support from Congress to get
Yes.
any real work done. So it matters who you vote for in the United States Representative 1st Congressional District and the United States Representative 2nd Congressional District. And the people who are vying for your votes there are the incumbent Congressman Troy A. Carter, a Democrat, black male; Devin Davis, Democrat, black male; Devin Lance Graham, Republican, white male; Christy Lynch, Republican, white female; and Chandrell Perilou, Republican, it says other for her race, female. And so I've seen her picture. She's a black female. I don't know why she would want to identify as other. Maybe she feels like if she says she's black, she may not get the support from white folk, Hispanic
she's
folk,
definitely black.
Vietnamese folk, but she's definitely black. I don't know why she marked other, but I think things like that speak to us. And it speaks to me as a black woman. Why would you choose other?
Well, because as a Republican trying to raise those funds, it's a little easier to blur the lines of what that identity is, but they're going to find out.
I mean, your face is on all of your
Yes.
mailers and things like that. Your face is on ballots.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why the other thing, but also too, you should have to put what you identify as on your census. And I don't,
Why do they only put the party in the race? I think that's
The party, the race, and the gender.
yeah.
So you're asking why they have to identify as Republican or Democrat?
Well, I'm asking why those 3 things are significant enough that they're on the ballot, so that people have to, I guess, use those.
Those
Because-
final characteristics.
Yeah.
I think because that's where we boil up down as Americans. At the
But
end
not
of the
only
day,
that
a lot
too,
of
though,
times
Kimmy, a lot of the times you're voting because they're a Democrat. Like, I'm a Democrat,
Yeah.
so I'm going to vote for a Democrat.
Uh-huh.
I think part of being informed is understanding that your values and things might not always align
Correct.
on party lines. Some things have to be bipartisan. Some things you have to meet in the middle and say, this is for the betterment of humanity. You can go in a boot and say, I want to vote for this person simply because they're Democrat. There are people masquerading as Democrats.
very much.
There are
so.
people masquerading as Republicans. And
seen
so
that
when
in
you
our
see
state.
them vote on certain issues and you're like, well, that doesn't align with Democratic left-leaning values or Republican right-leaning values, because they're masquerading as a different party so that they can either pull votes in races or pull money.
Yep.
That's what it's about. So when you
I'm just saying, so qualified candidates can be, you know, I guess disqualified from, you know, a person's vote just by some of those, you know,
Yes.
characteristics. So
Yes.
if
Yeah.
You're a white female, or, you know,
Yes.
you don't want to vote, you know, black, you know. You
Yeah.
just
Well-
Xing out without doing the research.
Yeah,
Like,
Without
absolutely.
absent all
Absolutely.
research, if it comes down to 3 character traits, it's your race, your party alignment, and then or affiliation, and then your gender.
Because think about it, Seth, they do that to people all the time in job interviews.
Correct.
They throw your resume in file 13 if your name is too ethnic.
Yes.
They assume that you are black or less than qualified just simply off of your name. There's a very successful black woman, her name is Marijuana. I don't know why her mom named it that, but she did. And she decided that she wasn't going to change her name. And she's been living with that name her entire life. She's a middle-aged woman now, that's her name, but she's very successful. But there are people who will judge you and what they think you bring to the table based on your name. And so
They
that's
will.
why things like your party affiliation or your race,
Yeah.
you know, or how you identify in terms of gender, all of that matters when people are trying to decide if they want to vote for you or not.
Correct.
So,
correct.
to Kimberly's point, understanding who these people are and what they stand for is important in terms of the funding and the monies that are sent to us,
Yes.
how our tax dollars are working,
Yes.
what they're going to vote for. And Congress has a lot to. People think, because they don't understand the branches of government, that a president just has this unfiltered power that he can just unilaterally make a decision. He cannot. You could have a Democratic president and have a mostly Republican Congress, and it's going to be
Yes.
fighting tooth and nail to get things passed, to
Yes.
get bills, you know, passed. And so we have to understand how government works to be able to understand why certain initiatives can't make it off of the House floor. Right? So now that we've told you guys who all is on the ballot for your congressional seats, we've told you who's on the ballot for your presidential seats. Kimmy, who's running for the school board seats? Because the school board races are on the Orleans Parish ballot, which is your ballot, right, Seth?
Correct.
So we have a District 2 race, and we have a District 4 race.
So who I see on my District 4, and I'll go back to District 2,
can help
Dr.
you.
Donaldo
Batiste.
Batiste. And then Katrina Chantel Griffin.
Yes.
That's number 14 and number 15 on the ballot. And I know you may know some background on.
Absolutely. So Dr. Donaldo Batiste is the incumbent. He is the person that currently holds that seat. And Katrina is vying for, so that's District 4.
Yeah, that was
that's
our
District
4.
4. District 4 is Dr. Donaldo Batiste. He's the incumbent. And Katrina Griffin is vying to unseat him. She's challenging him. Dr. Batiste is the grassroots candidate, and Katrina Griffin is the candidate that is being backed by Democrats for Education Reform, which is also DFER. So when you think about it, they have kind of boiled it down to a traditional public school candidate and a charter school candidate, with Dr. Donaldo Batiste being the candidate that is in favor of returning our schools to local governance. And the challenger is saying she doesn't care what you call a school, she just wants quality schools. And so Dr. Donaldo Batiste's point is, well, if you don't care what they're called and you just want quality schools, then don't fight against some of our schools that are currently failing being returned back to local governance. So those are the two people vying for the District 4 seat.
And then I have,
Before you go
okay,
there,
yeah.
Can we talk about Dr. Batiste? Because I see it says American Indian in terms of you know, one of those ethnic backgrounds
Okay,
for,
yes.
as a male, but you know he kind of clearly looks black when you look at him. So
Yeah.
I do see it on here as American Indian. until you said something, I didn't look at
Yeah.
that portion.
Yeah, so I just wanted to get y'all thoughts on.
I mean, I think it's the same thing. Like, what would make you choose other, or what would make you choose America? Because I mean, that could be your heritage, right? But when you clearly present as a black man, do you think that putting that on there as opposed to black will draw you to a different demographic of voters? Maybe does it soften the blow to people who want to vote for a black man? I don't know. Like, I wonder that. That's a really good question.
It
like
is.
If you, because like, what would possess a black woman to choose other? And we said maybe it's about trying to appeal to Republican voters, trying to appeal to donors who may not necessarily want to give their money to a black Republican candidate, but a other Republican candidate.
And then you
is
got to
softer.
think, if someone is in the last stages of voting, so say I did no research and it boils down to now I'm in the booth and I'm looking at just this,
Yes.
that may be the turning point for people.
What you think the motivation is to choose something other than black when you present as a black person?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So maybe it's, kind of like you said, if it's the last, last segment in your voting piece, and then, it's, especially if you're a non-black person,
Yeah.
and you see, black and then American Indian, maybe you're more likely to choose, American Indian.
Well, we don't know, but what we do know is he's the current incumbent in the seats. What we do know is he has 40 plus years of educational background. And I don't know about you, Sis, but when it comes to education, policy making positions, I want educators in the seats. The same way if I went to a medical board, I'm just going to assume that all three of those people sitting before me are medical doctors or have some medical expertise. I don't want people playing with my health in the hospital. I don't want them playing with my baby's education in the schoolhouse either. That's just my personal stance on it. So if Katrina Griffin is going to challenge for the seat, I would like to know what is her platform initiatives to better unite our school systems and to have better academic outcomes for our children, to give parents more viable options for school. For schools, those are the questions that I have.
Are you familiar with her background?
The article that I read, that I always read on WBOK on the Good Morning Show, she identifies herself as an activist. She identifies herself as a volunteer for several different organizations.
Have you heard of her, Sis?
No.
But I do know that she, by what she does for a living, is a nurse. That's what her credential is. She doesn't work as a nurse, but that's what her credential is. So prior to, and in full transparency, says, I am a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, and she is also a part of the same organization as me. And one of the founding pillars of this organization is education. It was founded by educators. So this is very important to me, that I have a soror who is jumping in a race, proclaiming to, want better educational outcomes for children, but you're running counter to a person who has all of this experience and all of these credentials that says he's qualified to do this job. So if you're going to unseat him and you want my vote, soror or not, you're going to have to tell me, what is your plan? What are you going to bring to the arena that is not already there? What are you going to do to get our children reading on grade level or helping our schools better themselves so that our children can read? Because right now, 70% of our children can't read on grade level. That's alarming to me. So soror or not, we could go to the same events and sit at the same table, eat the same food. I will not vote for you simply because we wear the same colors of the organization. I want to know what you're going to do to best make education better for my kids.
I like something that you said, and I'd like you to expound on this. What does it take to unseat an incumbent? Because we also have that, again, you spoke a little bit about Congressman Troy Carter and those that are running for that seat. What do you feel like is the threshold of what he's doing now, and what does it take for a new candidate that's going to go into this presidential term with these people that are taking these seats? What do you think that they need to have that our incumbent doesn't have to unseat him?
I mean, I think it's very clear. If I look at the incumbent and I can look at his track record, let's say, for instance, the congressional race, right? I can see what is being done for my state.
Correct.
For my district. I can see when hurricanes happen, who's responding. I can see when people are calling saying, the roads are terrible here, or there's no lights in this community. It's the same way with the city council. I can see the people who are working on behalf of the people. I see the people who are accessible. I see the people who are in the community. I see the people you can interface with, right? I don't want a celebrity representing me. I want somebody that is about community service. And if I look at the person who is currently holding a seat and I can name 10 things off the top of my head that they've done since they took that seat, and I sit in front of you and I say, so what are the 20 things that you're going to do in addition to the 10 things he's already done to be able to take him out of his seat? You have to be able to tell me that. Right now, I can tell you that I want a congressman that can work across party lines to get work done for my state, right? If you don't have the track record of showing me that you could come outside of your Democratic space or your Republican space and say, let's do this for the good of the American people, for all people, all of the state of Louisiana, because I'm sure our congressman knows he represents people that did not vote for him.
Yes.
Right? But once you're the congressman, once you're the mayor, once you're the city councilman, once you're the president, you're working on behalf of all people. So for me, if you want me to unseat a school board member who I can see, I go to meetings, baby. I'm watching, him hold the line for public schools. I'm watching him question people when they come up there and they tell us their school is fiscally on solid ground, and he's like, wait, hold on, that's not what the data is saying. Because see, when you talk to an educator about education, they understand what numbers mean. They understand what the words mean, what the acronyms mean. So you can't talk fast to them. You can't give them pretty.
Yes.
They want facts, and they want to understand outcomes. And if you're trying to unseat him, you have to show me that you understand the facts of this thing. You understand what unseating him, what the implications of that is. And that's how to me, that's what I'm looking for. What can you do differently? What hasn't he done that you're going to do that's going to move academic outcomes for kids? What you think about that, Sis? If our kids cannot read, right? And I see a man that is currently holding a seat trying to hold these schools accountable to why our kids can't read. And I'm watching him help bring us our first district run school. And let me be very clear. He's not trying to dismantle charter schools that are working. He's saying that if the schools are failing, then we need to give the district the opportunity to do their constitutionally bound job, and that is to run schools. So let me be very clear about that. He's not saying dismantle charters. No. He's saying if they're working, the law says let them work. The law also says replicate them. But what he's saying is if they're not working consistently, if you failed year in, year out, then it is our duty to take them from you and give them to the school board and let the school board run them.
Which makes sense.
That is what he's saying. So when you say to me as a challenger, I don't care what you call a school, I just want good schools for the kids, then you have to say that part of you is saying what he's saying. If the charters are working, fine. But give us an opportunity to resuscitate the failing schools. And by resuscitating them, that means give them to us. Don't give them to another charter that hasn't shown any growth with the schools that they currently have. Give them to us and let us do our job, right? So if you're asking me as the educator, that's what I would do. But since you're in a different lane, like what do you think it will take to unseat a congressional incumbent who you can see working on behalf of your state?
I think in both of those races, right, I think it depends on the track record of both individuals. And so as it relates to the school board, member, if he's, doing a good job, if he's not doing a good job, the track record, kind of speaks for itself. I know if we talk about a number of different schools, if they're failing, so even though he can, talk good and know the information, what's happening under his watch, and for the new candidate that's running is like she have to do her research, so you can't come in this race and not know the numbers. You can't know everything that it takes to be a school board member over that District 4 piece, and you have to have a vision for you know, if you're going to take those schools from charter schools and put them under, you know, whatever system you're going to do it in, you should have a vision for what that looks like and be able to explain that. And then for the, you know, congressional seats, you know, I believe like in both seats, I think, you know, opportunity, we have to give folks opportunity if they have the track record or they are fully capable of running those seats. But I also know, you know, experience, you know, helps you. So like Troy Carter, right? Being a lifelong politician, you able to go into, you know, DC and use your relationships. You're able to get things done.
Because that's big in politics.
That's huge, and especially with this presidential
Yeah.
race. Yeah.
And, you know, to be able to get those funds, and you know, of course, you want to be able to give people opportunity, but sometimes, like learning on the job is not the best for you know,
Correct.
us.
You want to
right
learn on the
now.
job? Go work at Wendy's.
Yeah, because the thing is, we can't afford it right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Not right now.
We
Not
have,
right now.
we have some things
The
going
stakes
on
are too high.
internationally
Yes,
to where
yes.
what is the learning curve?
Yes. Yes.
I can't say I can give you 90 days so that
No.
you could figure this one out.
No.
But one thing that I can say, not talking about the incumbent, but what if you have a congressional leader that is doing poorly
Yes.
or poorly performing?
Yes.
I need him out.
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Expedition.
If
But
you
he's,
don't if
you know-
you don't like the job your
Yep.
congressman is doing, I'm not talking about if you don't like him, because
Yeah.
he has to represent people who
Yeah.
he doesn't like either.
Yeah.
Who didn't vote for him either. I'm not talking about if you don't personally like him, but if he's not doing the job that impacts your city and your state in a way that moves us forward, then you ought to vote him out.
Yeah.
There is no reason why you're voting against things that will help grow our state.
Correct.
Like, for instance, when it was the opportunity to bring the food in to feed the kids for the summer program, our governor was like, no,
Yes.
we don't want that. And then our officials in the city were like, well, we can't worry about what he's not going to do. We have to create a plan.
Yes.
Those are the kind of leaders that I need.
Correct.
Because you could get bogged down in worrying about what people are not going to do, or you could do what you can do in your capacity and make sure that the children eat over the summer. And then he changed course. Right? We watched New Orleans say, okay, we're going to figure this out on our own. And
Yes.
then he changed course. And sometimes that's good leadership too, to see that you've made a mistake or you see that you've gotten it wrong. And you're like, wait, hold up. Let me,
I don't think that was the case.
I'm just saying, I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt here.
But I do
we're trying to be fair and impartial here. Did you just tell me we have to be? So like, I'm just saying, like
We gonna keep it real,
sometimes,
too,
but sometimes he might not say that that's what the real reason was, but sometimes that's the real reason. He like, wait, hold up, that didn't land like I thought it was gonna land, and people not really feeling the way I did that, right? So I have to change course, but I'm not gonna ever out loud say, oh, because they did it and they made me feel bad about it. He won't say that.
Yeah, I
He's
think
just going to
the-
say, I rethought it.
I think the pressure
After,
was
after
on.
some thought.
After the partnerships formed
Yes,
and alliances,
yes.
it was like, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think
yes.
you know I think the pressure was on, and the folks who they don't necessarily share with the public. You know, who the majority of the people who on those SNAP benefits, you know, they look like him. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's not, you know, majority of us.
Yeah.
And so those. kids
So
will
what
go
you're
home
telling
as
me is
well.
when he
Yeah.
realized the impact it was going to have on different demographics of people, he was like, wait, hold up, let me rethink this.
It's like you see the pressure and you see.
Yeah.
Spoken like a community leader, but
Yes.
so let's talk about the District 2 race. The District 2 race is an open seat.
All
The
right.
seat is currently being held by Ethan Ashley, but he is not up for re-election, so it's an open seat. So in that seat, we have Dr. Eric Jones, Gabriella Bureau, and Chan Tucker. Chan Tucker is an energy exec. Gabriella Bureau is a hairdresser. And Eric Jones is the only person in that race that has any educational background. I believe he runs a school out in Baton Rouge. He's run schools here. He's been on boards here. So
Say the names one more time, just for our listeners. Just do it one more
So-
time with what they do. One more time.
for the District 2 seat, we have 3 people vying for an open seat that is vacated by Ethan Ashley. We have Dr. Eric Jones. He has the educational background. He's running a school out in Baton Rouge. He's been on a board here in New Orleans for schools. Gabriella Biro is a hairdresser here in the city, and Chan Tucker is an Entergy exec. So those are the three people vying for the open seat. And again, I'm going to continue to say this. I think that when you offer yourself up for service, there is something commendable about that. There's something admirable about that, offering yourself up for service. Got it. What I have a problem with is, the motivation for wanting to run for a seat that you have zero experience or expertise in. That's scary to me. Like, what is it about a school board seat that you want when you're coming from an Entergy arena or the beauty shop? I need to understand that. And not saying that she can't be effective as a hairdresser, but we are in a crisis in our school system right now. We can't afford any more experimentation on our children. We cannot. So for me, I'm going to always lean towards those of us who have the experience or the expertise in the field that the seat correlates to. Right? I will not go and try to sit on a legal board because I'm not a lawyer. But Kimmy is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit on no music exec board because that's not my thing, but that's your thing.
Yeah.
So if somebody called me about that, you know what I'm going to say? I like music and I listen to it, but let me show you who you need to talk to because he has the experience and the expertise, right? We have to learn how to let people shine in the lane that they have the expertise and the experience in. There are lanes for a hairdresser. And it's no shot. I think she's a nice girl. I interviewed her at the Step Up panel. I think she's a nice girl. I think she has some nice points about why she thinks she offered herself up for service. But what I am very hesitant about is I do not think she understands the totality of this segregated system. We have we don't have a school system anymore. We have a system of different schools and they all govern themselves. And so if you don't understand the landscape, I don't think that you could be successful in that seat. We need people who get it. We need people who understand. And just because you're over there balancing, he says, billion dollar budgets over there at Entergy, you might be good with the money aspect of it, but that's why we have chief financial officers. I don't need you to be a CFO. Correct. I need you to be a board member who understands the landscape of our schools to help our children get back to the basics of learning and teachers get back to the basics of teaching. We don't have that right now. Our school system is in crisis.
I think that's important. What you just said is really understanding what these jobs are. Again, we are hiring these people.
Yes.
This is a huge hiring event.
Yes.
And you have to go back to what you just said as far as what is their background? Does it match up with the duties that they're going to be called to do under these circumstances? So for this one, we have 3 candidates that are there, and we really need to think about, and we have a habit of voting for popularity. I went to school with that person, and this person, I ran the streets with them or what have you. We have to step back from that popular type voting and start saying, is this person qualified? Can they do the job day one?
So, Seth, let me ask you this question. What do you think about where people get their money from when they're running for office? And what are the implications of that? Because if I have a grassroots candidate, like if you ran for office, right? And I know you got money, but these people pouring millions of dollars into these races. Yeah. No, I know you got money now. You look like money. I'm just going to say that for the people that can't see you. But no, like, what do you think about all of this money that's pouring in from different states to affect our school system here? Yeah. Like, why is there New York money and, all of this out-of-state money to come in for a local school board race? What does that tell you about a candidate when they're backed by all of this big money and they're telling us about how well this person is going to do on a nice flyer and everything because they can pay for it. Yeah. But then you have you running as a grassroots candidate. The community knows you. They knows you could bet if it's about the children and it's about bettering this community, Seth's got his hand somewhere in it.
Yes.
So we know you're better, but then we don't have the money to help push you, and they're just going to outspend you. What do you think about that?
So I think it's about the money that's in the school board system. So, there's a lot of food money. There's a lot of
Transportation
cleaning
money.
and transportation money, supply money.
He's talking about those contracts,
Yes.
Kimmy.
So there's a lot of
We gonna keep it real.
there's a lot of contractual bid money. That a lot of in a lot of times it is those out of town companies that gets
Yes.
the bids and gets the the bids and the jobs for those contracts. So I think a lot of those people already are in place and they've been getting those contracts for decades, and they want to keep those contracts, and so they funding the candidate that they think will continue to give them.
And I think that's the biggest, Kimmy, when you're talking about we have to step back from voting for popularity, I think that's another elephant in the room in terms of people being able to just buy a seat.
Yeah.
Right? You just buy a seat. I see some of these candidates, they don't even show up at forums to even give us their perspective on what they're going to do for the seat. They're not even knocking doors. They're just paying street teams to go out and give out their literature. They're not interfacing with community. They're not answering questions. They're not going, on shows and expressing themselves in terms of trying to earn your vote, because they know the outfits that are backing them are just going to put their face on a billboard, put their name on a commercial, run ads, send stuff to your mailbox, and that's what they're banking on to put them in seats. I think it's very dangerous what we've allowed to happen to the political arena, because now it's no longer about the best candidate. It's just about the candidate who could afford to saturate the market with their name and likeness and materials. And then you have the grassroots candidate who may be best for the seat but can't afford to reach all of those people because they just don't have the funding. I think it's scary.
I think it's also, we have to stop being so lazy. We have to start doing our due diligence when it comes to looking into the campaign finance reports and things like that. I've seen so many Diddy investigators, yet they won't go and research to see what type of money is coming and being passed through our candidates in elections.
What she just said, Seth, was they taking all their little internet fingers and investigating who was in Diddy paperwork, but they're not going to go to the Secretary of State website and see what's on their ballot. Right. That's what I heard. Did you hear her say that?
Yeah.
That's what I heard her say. I just wanted to be very clear about what she said. But we've given you the presidential nominees. We've given you the congressional nominees. We've given you the school board nominees. Now we're about to talk about the heavy stuff that we believe people will skip. Because they just don't want to read all of the words. They don't even understand it. And they're either going to go in there and just press yes, no, and get out, or they're going to completely leave it blank and get out. What we're asking them to do is to inform themselves. So now we're talking about these amendments that's on the ballot. And we're going to start first with the constitutional amendment that I believe is Orleans and Jefferson.
Yes,
correct?
It is. And so the constitutional amendment, the amendment has a lot of legal jargon, but as I was researching and as you gave me a couple of sources, I feel that from blacksourcemedia.com, how they kind of minimize the language.
Yes,
I really, really like it.
So let's talk about it. Let's use Black Source Media New Orleans Ballot Options Explained. So in the statewide constitutional amendment, Kimmy, can you read it how it appears on the ballot?
Oh, yes, definitely. Give me just a second.
She's going to read how it appears on the ballot, and we're going to tell you what a yes vote means, what a no vote means, and then Black Source Media's explanation of the jargon that you're going to see on the ballot.
All right. So the proposed amendment. The proposing amendment, Article 7, Section 10.2 E1 of the Constitution of Louisiana relative to federal proceeds from the alternative energy production on the outer continental shelf. The outer continental shelf, you all, is that water that lies I can't remember how many knots away from our shoreline. And so it starts touching into those international waters to provide for the disposition of revenues, to provide for submission of the proposed amendment to the electors, and to provide for related matters. So they want to use that money that is generated. For instance, there's energy that's being generated. It could be solar energy. It could be turbine wind energy that is generating out there in that outer continental shelf. All right. Do you support an amendment to require the federal revenues received by the state generated from the outer continental shelf, alternative or renewable energy production, be deposited into the Coastal Protection and Restoration Fund?
So here's the explanation from Black Source Media. Amendment 1 lets Louisiana decide how to use money from offshore wind and solar energy production. Voters must choose whether to dedicate the funds to coastal protection or allow lawmakers to spend it on other projects. So a yes vote says this: if you vote yes, a yes vote directs future revenue from offshore renewable energy into a fund for coastal protection. The money will pay for projects like building levees and restoring wetlands to protect the coast from erosion, flooding, and hurricanes. Louisiana's coastal areas are crucial to the economy and safety, so a yes vote ensures they receive funding. A no vote. A no vote allows the money to be used for other state priorities, such as roads, schools, or health care. Voting no gives lawmakers more freedom to address needs across the state. So in short, a yes vote sets the money aside for coastal protection, while a no vote allows broader spending for a wider range of state needs. That is the breakdown according to Black Source Media. What do you think about that, Seth? So on the one hand, if you vote yes, you're going to dedicate those monies to coastal protection. And it's going to go for things like erosion, flooding, and hurricanes. But if you say no, it just gives the state a broader range of options to spend the money on.
I also want to just add that a no vote, it will maintain the current system.
Yes.
And this is, on
Power Coalition?
Coalition.com. So it says it will, maintain the current system where only oil and gas revenues contribute to the coastal protection efforts. So with the yes vote, it would guarantee not only the oil and gas, revenue go to the coastal protection, but also all of those renewable sources as well. And so I just think for all of our listeners, all our, Louisiana citizens, they should definitely do their research so that, they make an educated guess because, gotta use,
But you made a good point. You're saying that if you vote no, then it just stays the way it is.
Correct.
So if you vote no, you keep it. So that's just, it just stays the way it is. But if you say yes, it's dedicating those funds and the renewable funds to make certain that our coast is protected from erosion, flooding, and hurricanes.
Yeah.
And then it's so the current system, it has only the oil and gas revenues contribute to the coastal protection efforts without including potential new revenue
Right.
from renewable energy sources.
That's the point he just
Yeah,
made. Yes.
so we have to really think about, because they're going to continue to think of other ways to make energy. Do you want access to those funds?
Yes.
So that is the breakdown explanation from Power Coalition and from Black Source Media. So let's talk about, because we're going to stay on New Orleans because Jefferson has a different,
Okay.
but I believe that one is on both parishes.
It is.
So we're going to talk about the city charter changes. There's a parish-wide HRC amendment number 1 of 2, which amends, you're going to talk about that? Amends Article 6, Section 62012 CC, Select 1. So let's talk about how it appears on your ballot.
All right. Shall Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of the City of New Orleans be amended to establish a housing trust fund dedicated exclusively to ensuring the availability of affordable housing within the city, and to require an annual appropriation of at least 2% of the city's annual general fund to the Housing Trust Fund as provided in Ordinance Number 29828 MCS.
So the explanation from Black Source Media says this proposal would amend the city charter, requiring at least 2% of the general fund to go to the Housing Trust Fund. The fund aims to address the city's ongoing housing crisis, which is disproportionately impacting African Americans. While this seems like progress, voters must consider the long-term consequences. Therefore, a yes vote locks in affordable housing funding, ensuring a steady financial stream for future projects. This commitment would help the city address the lack of affordable housing, a worsening issue over time. However, locking in a portion of the budget may cause problems down the road. In tough economic times, the city might need to cut other essential services to meet this funding requirements. I want to also note that the proponents of this, they're telling you that this is not a new tax. They're just taking 2% of the general fund and allocating it towards a housing trust fund. A no vote allows the council to maintain yearly flexibility when allocating funds. The council can still prioritize the housing trust fund without a fixed percentage mandate. They could adjust spending based on financial conditions and emerging city needs. Importantly, the council already supports affordable housing, and the fund could still receive money even if the amendment fails. Voters need to weigh these options carefully. A yes vote guarantees long-term housing funds but limits the city's budget flexibility, and a no vote keeps the city's options open but relies on future council decisions to fund affordable housing. The choice is yours. Do you see anything different from the way Black Source Media says it to how the Power Coalition broke down a yes and no vote?
No, I don't see it.
So the Power Coalition is kind of running parallel to what Black Source Media is saying. So that is the parish-wide HRC Amendment number 1 of 2. So we have number 2. How does it appear on the ballot?
Shall Article 2, Section 2-202 of the Home Rule Charter of the City of New Orleans be amended to include rights for workers as described in Ordinance number 29864 MCS among the rights contained in the Municipal Bill of Rights?
So the explanation from Black Source Media, the Workers' Bill of Rights says that everyone deserves equality, fair wages, health care, and paid leave. We all believe that, but this is a non-binding proposition. The government cannot force businesses to do more than the minimum. Minimum wage, question mark. The city cannot increase the minimum wage. Fair wages, question mark. Okay, I'm not against that. Same for health care and paid leave, but this is only about symbolism. The language asserts that change is non-binding. Nonetheless, the Workers' Bill of Rights is up for vote, and here is your choice and what it means. A yes vote supports the City Council's symbolic statement in favor of fair wages, health care, and paid leave for all workers. Though it doesn't create enforceable laws, it signals the city's commitment to worker rights and stands against harmful labor practices. A no vote rejects the symbolic bill, leaving no formal declaration by the city in support of these worker protections. It keeps the current policies unchanged. What does the Power Coalition say?
It pretty much says the same thing.
Pretty much says the same thing. So the Power Coalition is running, in parallel to what Black Source Media is saying. And in short, it's just saying if you vote yes, it's pretty much symbolic because you can't force it. It's non-binding. So maybe they should have had some language that binds the vote, right?
Correct.
So that's what Black Source Media is saying. It's saying it's symbolic because it doesn't really have any enforceability.
Correct.
But a no vote leaves no formal declaration by the city in support of worker protection. So at least a yes vote gives way to trying to protect the Bill of Rights for the workers. But if you vote no, then it leaves no support and it keeps the current policies unchanged.
Yes.
So that's what happens there. I mean, do you want to add anything, Kimmy?
No, that was it. That was it. And the last thing I don't know if you are mentioning, there are unopposed races in Orleans Parish.
It's on, so Seth can tell us about that because it's on the Power Coalition's breakdown of what's on your ballot.
So I also want to just add that I think it's just a step in the right direction, even though there's no,
You mean a yes vote?
Yeah.
So voting yes, 'cause that's what Black Source Media said. It
Yeah.
said it gives way to, trying to work in that direction in terms of a worker bill of
Yes.
rights. But I think their issue is that it's not enforceable.
Well, that's why I say it's a step
In the right direction.
In the right direction because keeping it the same way isn't a step
That's
in the
not
right
working
direction.
clearly.
But we
Yeah.
clearly need a livable wage, in this city, and whatever steps need to happen for us to get there.
And I also believe our
we
culture
need to-
bearers need a worker bill of rights. Nobody works harder than the culture bearers.
Big fact.
Yeah. So let's talk about those unopposed races.
Okay, so the unopposed races, the Judge Court of Appeals, 4th Circuit, 1st District, Division E, Monique G. Morrell, is a Democrat, a black female, unopposed. And then Judge of 2nd City Court, E. Tina Anderson Trahan, Democrat, also black female. Clerk, 2nd City Court, Lisa Ray Diggs, Democrat, black female. Constable, 2nd City Court, Edwin M. Shorty, Democrat, black female. Member
Black
of
male.
Oh, black male. I'm sorry, Mr. Shorty.
That's a tall black man too.
Member of School Board District 1, Lila J.
Eames. Uh-huh.
Eames. Because I want to say James because of the J.
Yes, absolutely. I see. Uh-huh.
Democrat, black female, member of School Board District 3. Olin G. Parker, Democrat, white male, member of School Board District 5. Catherine Boudin, Democrat, white female, and then member of School Board District 6. Carlos Luis Zervanon.
Yes.
A Democrat, Hispanic male, and member of School Board District 7. Nolan Marshall, Democrat, black male.
Yeah, so that's what's on your ballot, people. So we're going to always reiterate that it is early voting time. Early voting started today, October 18th. It will run into October 29th. The polls open at 8:30 a.m. and close at 6 p.m. I know at the Algiers Library, you can vote early in Algiers. I know the Treme Center has a voting poll place open. I know in Jefferson Parish, you can vote at the Yenny Building. So please make certain that you can literally Google early voting polling locations.
Yes.
Well, I
And
have
you
a
can
few polling
find,
locations
talk
that I
about them,
share.
sis.
So we got, of course, City Hall.
Yes.
The Algiers Courthouse, the voting machine warehouse, 8870 Chef Mentor Highway, Lake Vista Community, 6500 Spanish Fort Boulevard, on the 2nd floor meeting room, and then the Treme Center, as you share.
I didn't know if you wanted to do your Jefferson Parish, parish-wide proposition.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well. Go ahead.
Okay.
Read it as it appears on the ballot.
Shall the Jefferson Parish charter be amended to include within the unclassified service any at-will employees hired to work directly in the office of the parish president or a parish council member by adding section 4.03A8 to the Jefferson Parish Charter to read as stated in section 1 of Jefferson Parish Ordinance number 26767, adopted on April 17th, 2024.
So a yes vote means you support amending the Jefferson Parish Charter to include certain employees of the parish president or parish council members in the unclassified service. Unclassified service means these employees will be considered at-will employees, my God. Meaning they could be hired or dismissed at the discretion of their employer without the protections or requirements of the classified civil service system. Why would we even want to ever do that? A yes vote will give the parish president and parish council members more flexibility in hiring and firing their direct staff. A no vote means you do not support amending the charter. This would maintain the current system where these employees may remain in the classified service, providing them with certain employment protections under the civil service rules. A no vote would maintain the current protections for those employees under civil service rules. And I can tell you, as a person who has worked at will employment, I would want nothing more than some protections. I believe in unions. I believe in union protections. I believe that people should have due process.
Yeah.
And I think that when we start to strip protections away from civil service workers who do some of the hardest jobs in the city,
Yes.
I think it's dangerous. That's just my opinion. So it's up on the ballot. And I can't tell you one way or the other how to vote, but I'm gonna tell you what I believe in. And when I go in a ballot, in the booth to cast my ballot, I'm going to vote in protection of workers, because I mean, at will employment is dangerous. But even though people can say you can get hired or fired at will, you can also quit at will.
Yes.
But there are very few people leaving jobs for no reason at all. There are reasons, but there are a lot of people being fired for no reason at all.
Yes.
So please make certain that you understand what you're voting for. A yes vote strips these civil service protections away from workers so they can be hired and fired at will. And then the no vote keeps it as it is with those protections in place. So that is what's on your ballot, Orleans and Jefferson Parish. And my brother over there from Third Line NOLA gave you the early voting locations. If you are still searching for it, if you forgot what he said, Google early voting location sites, and I promise you they're going to give you a list. Find the place that's closest to your residence and get up and go vote. Take somebody to the poll with you. Go vote. Life be life and things happen. We don't want to wait till November 5th. Early voting started today and it will run into October 29th. What you say, Kimmy?
Secretary of State's website, sos.la.gov. Please go if you're looking for the locations. If you get confused,
Yes.
please go on there.
You can also go to the Secretary of State's website and put your information in and pull up your sample ballot and practice at home.
Yes.
You can literally practice, like
And print
put
it
your
out.
ballot in front of you and go through the list of people, look them up, see what they stand for, and you can start eliminating people. And you don't even have to rush to vote. You got to the 29th to go do it. So if you need to do your research tonight, tomorrow, and the next day, you do that.
I think that's everyone's homework.
That's your
You know,
homework.
do their
Go to the
research.
Secretary of State website,
Yeah, and go
print down your
research.
ballot and
Yes.
practice. And if you forget, you could always tune into the Good Morning Show every day, Monday through Friday, with myself and Oliver O.T. Thomas, because we talk about what's on your ballot, and we will continue talking about it until November 5th. So it's been nice talking to y'all, Seth. You got some important words for the people?
Yeah, I want to encourage everybody to come out tomorrow to early vote if they, do their research.
Do your
But,
research.
There's a big push with Bike and Vote and Second Line to Vote tomorrow, 2 p.m. From the Treehouse to City Hall. So we got thousands of people coming out tomorrow to early vote together. And so we want to encourage
So
folks to
Seth
come
said, if you don't know what's on your ballot and you're still confused, come out to the Bike and Vote event. You're going to be surrounded by a whole bunch of knowledgeable people. You can
Yes.
get the information on your bike while you riding to go vote.
Yes.
Come out and vote, y'all. What you got for them, Kimmy?
The last thing I have is just take your time, research, be informed. Know that your vote impacts not only your state, your city, your kids, but it also affects our dollars. So take that time and vote smart.
Listen, I want to give a shout out to WBOK 1230 AM. It's the only station that I know trying to make certain that you know what we know. So when you go in the voting booth, you are informed, and not misinformed, not ill-informed or uninformed. You are informed about what is on your ballot. I am Dr. Ashanta White, and it has been a pleasure to rock with my brother from Third Line NOLA, the one and only Sess45, and Kimberly Thomas, JD. Anytime you talking legal matters, you better have a lawyer in the room. You understand what I'm saying? She broke that down like the professional that she is. And shout out to our general manager behind the glass holding us all together, Big Justin. Shout out to him. But this is WBOK 1230 AM, and we just got finished telling y'all what's on that ballot. Go vote, y'all. Early voting, October 18th, October 29th.